Welcome to Octagon Inappropriate, a cult film showdown special series on movies that almost made our search for the ultimate B movie. I am Jim Cotta, and I am joined today by Nick Boxer.
Ooh, hello. I think I see a movie star over there.
You'll see a lot of them in this movie. And also Jack Hall is here.
Hey, how's it going? Look at that shirt that Nick's wearing. That's pretty cool. What is that? Like Final Destination or something?
Batman.
What's that?
Batman.
I've got on Lost Boys.
Oh, Lost Boys. There you go. I can't.
And,
He's small in my picture, but I knew it was cool.
So this series that we're doing is 7 movies, and the idea of this series is that when we've been doing our search for the ultimate B movie. We've been doing our search for the ultimate B movie, and we've taken a pause from that for it's been about 2.5 years, something like that, and temporary pause. And we're looking at movies that sort of made the Octagon, but probably would have had some reason that kept them out of the Octagon.
The movie we're doing scoring low.
Yeah, scored low because more heart than budget in the case of this one is one of the categories we use, and this movie had a much higher budget than we typically see, which is probably, anything over about 40 is much higher than what we normally saw in the
$40.
Well, I picked this one, and we should say the name. It's in the Name of the King, A Dungeon Siege Tale. Mm-hmm. And I picked this one because I knew it would score low, but it has some absolute wacky shit in it.
It does that.
It should be a whole lot more entertaining than it is. But we got orcs being lit on fire and being launched at an enemy we got ninjas in this for no apparent reason. It should be a lot of fun.
I love that there's ninjas.
Well, let's say the name of the director, and as soon as you said A Dungeon Siege Tale, if you recognize that it's a video game, then you probably recognize that the movie director would be the guy who makes probably more video game movies than anybody who's ever existed.
That's
true.
And
how do you pronounce his name there, Nick?
Uwe
Boll. He has made a lot of video games. I know Blood Rain and Alone in the Dark. And wow, I never thought I'd say I'd rather watch Alone in the Dark than anything. But
36 directing credits. And do you know there's a sequel to this movie?
There are 2 sequels to this movie.
What?
That's amazing.
It's amazing if you got the same budget, especially for them. Because
no. Dolph Lundgren stars in the second one.
Okay.
60.
Is this his most mainstream movie? Like as far as budget and big actors and everything?
I think it was supposed to be his big breakout into the mainstream. It was going to be huge. Wikipedia lists the budget this at $60 million, but I've heard numbers inflated up to $140 million went into this fucker. And there are scenes in this you can see the money being spent. Not spent well, but being spent. This has so many brand name actors in it. It has such a huge cast. You can see they probably spent a couple days on some of the setups with the guys flying through trees and like that, but it still feels like a $2 million film. And by the time they saw it, they went, oh, okay, we're just going to pump this out on the video market or something, because I don't think it had a theatrical release of any size.
That Uwe Boll, who had never made up to this point or after a movie that really made money or was good, the fact that he was able to convince somebody to give him $6, never less 60 million, or 140 million, dollars to make a film. I mean, I have no respect for the man as a filmmaker, but as a entrepreneur, however you pronounce that word, I always have trouble with it. But as like I mean, this is a man who has somehow managed to survive in the film industry, make 36 films, you said, and I'm sure is very rich from making films, despite never making anything worth watching or that's made money. The guy is remarkable. I mean, I applaud this guy.
You listen to the commentary track on "In the Name of any of his films." He swears to God, this is the best thing he's ever done. Like, he likes the films he makes.
He does.
Yeah, no, I mean, and you can see there are shots where there are people hiding in this movie and stuff that he's taking out of, like, Lord of the Rings. Just stealing them outright.
I wanted to get into that. Don't get me wrong.
All right,
But I feel like we're losing our thread of our how we do this. We need Nick to explain the movie to people before we go on.
Just explain the parts that aren't Lord of the Rings.
Well, there's an evil sorcerer who has bedded the king's mage and gains a bunch of power. So he gets off-brand orcs to attack the kingdom, so there's a war. And there turns out there is one farmer that sort of gets, coincidentally, named Farmer to avoid any sort of confusion, that gets caught in the mix, and his son dies, and his woman is kidnapped, and he's played by Jason Statham. And the rest of the film is Farmer trying to get along with the king and the kingdom and all the various henchmen of the kingdom to kill the mage, save his woman, and it turns out he's the son of the king.
Of course.
It's a straightforward. It should be a straightforward, like, role-playing Dungeons & Dragons campaign, and it is. It's just there's so much weird shit and actors wedged in here for no apparent reason that it actually gets confusing by the end. Like, I had no idea why the mage even wanted to. What was his goal? I mean, his big line in this is ridiculous. Madness will be called what it is in my kingdom, power.
Yeah, I have no idea what that means.
I mean, that was the goal of the bad guy, I think.
I like that you described that he apparently got his powers, Ray Liotta, as a sorcerer from bedding the daughter of the mage of the king, played by John Rhys-Davies and Lily. How do you pronounce this? Sobieski. Sobieski. There you go. Lily Sobieski. So, of course, Ray Liotta is a good 30 years older than her. But
that's not creepy at all.
And did anyone actually tell him this was a Dungeons & Dragons type thing? Because he's dressed like Goodfellas for the entire movie.
Yeah, but he's the only one who seems to get that he's in a U-Bowl film. Like, everybody else is taking it seriously, giving it their best, and he's chewing the scenery and having a grand old time.
Yeah, that Ray Liotta is the thing. I hadn't seen this in quite a long time, and Ray Liotta is the thing I remembered the most. Also, there's 29 years between the two of them.
Yeah.
So he would have been about, he would have been roughly twice her age at the time that this was made. But he's what I remember from just chewing the scenery. This is his best bad guy role. Like, he's more mustache twirling in this than he is in Goodfellas as a bad guy. You're right. He looks like he knows exactly the movie he's making.
Yeah, everybody else thought they were making Lord of the Rings. He knows that it's up there. I don't know if it's his best bad guy role, because Unlawful Entry, that film. It would, again, it's not Octagon appropriate, but boy, would it score.
Yeah, I just love him in this. I meant to pay attention, and I forgot about it, of trying to figure out how many days he probably did. Um,
Oh, I'm
because
pretty
he
sure
has,
he was on set with the girl, and that's it.
yeah,
It
like
was
he's
like a
got,
2-day and out shoot because
yeah, like so many of his scenes take place in one, like in 2 or 3 sets. Like he's got his own place where he's got a, I think what could best be described as a holodeck for following his troops. He can see through the eyes of the the Nazgul. I mean, let's call them what they are. They're the Nazgul. Uh, the wraith-like armored up horsemen, um, who, yeah, totally aren't the Nazgul. I guess now that I think about it, they're not. They're totally different, and he can look through their eyes. But he has this like 360 smoke-filled room where he can see everything. Uh, which is just hilarious, but it means like he could have done all that in a green screen room in like an afternoon. It also means that he didn't have to be on any of the other sets because he could just look through their eyes.
He was in that chamber where he did the sword fight with the kings, with the John Rhys, or that's one other scene. I'm trying to think of where else location wise he was. Yeah,
Lily
someplace where
Sobieski's
there was a
room.
bed.
Lily
Yeah, Lily.
Sobieski's room, and
Yeah.
then the like kind of dungeon hallway where he meets up with the Duke, the king's nephew, who is next in line for the throne, played by Matthew Lillard.
Yeah, he also knew what he was
actually,
making.
I will argue
He
for
was
his
over the top.
performance. I was just defending Matthew Lillard. I thought he was wonderful. He went over the top with this. It was fun. I thought he did an excellent job. The only problem I had with his performance is he can't sword fight worth shit. Somebody should have hired somebody to teach him to sword fight because his sword fight is
Yeah.
pathetic.
I disagree with you. I think it didn't matter that he can't sword fight because there's so many quick cuts that Michael Bay's going, dude, you got to slow down. That it doesn't matter.
They weren't fast. They were
That he
just
can't
bad. They
sword
were
fight.
jump cuts.
Oh, it's brutal.
And
I
I
don't know
love
how,
that.
it takes, I won't say U-Bowl has no talent because it takes talent to make a movie that has Ron Perlman and Burt Reynolds and I still don't enjoy it. It takes talent to have this many action scenes be this boring. Like it's a talent.
Let's take a second to run through the cast of this movie because it is kind of insane. So Jason Statham, Lily Sobieski, John Rhys-Davies as the Magus, the King's Magician, Ron Perlman as a guy who lives next to Jason Statham, Claire Forlani, Christina Loken, most famous for being the Terminator in Terminator 3, Matthew Lillard, most famous for being the voice of Shaggy on Scooby-Doo for most of my lifetime, and we also have Ray Liotta and Burt Reynolds as the king and the villain, and I think either of them could have done exactly the same performance and played the opposite character.
That's probably true.
It's so weird. Like Burt Reynolds is such a weird character. Plays such a weird character in this. You keep thinking I kept thinking he was a bad guy because he's just playing it that way. Also, he had had so much Botox by this point. He has no expressions. So it's really hard to read him.
Not a bad guy, just an asshole.
I felt sorry for him for a lot of this because I believe this is almost his last film, if not his last.
Oh no.
And
I don't think so.
it felt
didn't he
like
live
he
until
was
like
being
2018?
propped up in any scene that he wasn't speaking in. But I mean, his speaking scenes were all right. His dialogue sucked. But I thought he was there for the performance. It's just, maybe it's just Burt Reynolds can't ride a horse. That's why he looked so awkward, and the costumer didn't get the right size helmet or something. He looks awkward in this.
Let me see. This was 2007. He died 11 years later. I'm sure he had quite a few roles in between.
including voice work, almost 30.
There you go.
He was doing a lot of voice work late on those years, video games and an episode of Archer, which is my favorite, one of his late roles.
Maybe he just wasn't moving correctly, because I don't know. I just thought he looked very not there. And that could be a directorial problem too. So
I love the moment where Burt Reynolds, who was dying at the time, the king has been poisoned, and John Rhys-Davies says, I need to tell you that Jason Statham there, who you don't get along with, he's really your son, and I knew this all along. And Burt Reynolds
Just
like,
holding on to it for a rainy day.
Yeah, Burt Reynolds like, what the hell? And he's like, well, at the time there was a war, and I thought it'd be safer to keep him hidden. I mean, Jason Statham's like 35 in this.
Oh,
like there was no opportunity in the last like 3 decades to bring him back. Just for rainy day is exactly right. I just forgot that I knew.
What year did the last Lord of the Rings come out? 2003?
Something like that, yeah.
So you both didn't see it until 2006. I'm just guessing. And then in 2007, this came out, and then you've been watching a lot of other filmmakers in between, I think, because when we talk about shots that are from other movies, I'm like, there's a lot of beautiful shots in this film. Don't get me wrong. I mean, the budget, like you say, it was used. There's a lot of beautiful shots, but I kept on going, I've never seen that in another film where it was used to further the story or the scene or whatever. Whereas here it's used just because it's beautiful and he saw it in another film. And there's no reason to use that shot. And that happens over and over again. And I'm like, man, beautiful shot. No point to it.
U-Bolt does that, though. I mean, Alone in the Dark has that problem as well. House of the Dead has that problem as well. Actually, he quotes Lord of the Rings in there, too.
The Lord
Blood
of the Rings
Rain, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Blood Rain has that problem too, which I thought was the movie that Terminator 3 was most famous for.
Which has a lower box office return than this.
Wow.
Which amazingly I had glanced at it earlier. I think it was a 20 million budget, and it was happened before this. So someone had given him 20, he had pissed it away, and then they gave him 60.
Yeah, like I say, I respect the man so much. You get $20 million. You make something that's terrible, that makes no money. And what happens? People turn around and go, you know what? The problem was he needs 3 times as much money to piss away, or 7 times as much money, depending on how much you've earned.
That there was a German tax loophole that people were putting money and stuff to just say not pay taxes. That's how he raised the money.
Now,
it is hard.
Who cares about the movie, though? Nick, can you tell your favorite and my favorite U-Bull story? The boxing one?
Oh, the one where the critics, I think, were talking shit about this particular film. So he challenged them to a boxing match. And he actually held the event, filmed it, and used it in a movie called Seed.
Yeah, he had a couple of the actual critics show up to fight him. And he beat the living piss out of them because he knows what he's doing in boxing. Just nailed on them and then used it in film after.
If you see the man, he is jacked. He was jacked. I don't know what he's like today.
Yeah, he's tall too. He's like 6'4".
But why isn't this movie more fun? I mean, it has wacky shit in it. Normally we watch a bad movie and we laugh our asses off. But
let's put it this way.
2 hours and 7 minutes of pain.
If you cut 40 minutes off this, 40 minutes worth of dialogue that's like going nowhere, that doesn't matter. Like, you could cut 40 minutes off this and probably, like, Like there's a project for you there, James. Cut 40 minutes off this film and see if you can make it entertaining.
I think actually watching it, I knew exactly how to do that. Can you pinpoint any part of this movie where Matthew Lillard's character matters? He's the nephew of the king. He is next in line, but that never seems to be important, except for this like 2-minute scene where they think the king's dead, or they think they know the king's dead, but they don't know that Jason Statham is his is the heir, which is a whole other problem.
They know Lillard. They know Lillard has killed him, but by law he's now the king, so they can't kill him in return. So that it looks like everybody's going to follow him. And then instead, John Rhys-Davies shows up with Jason Statham and goes, the other way, this guy's actually the son of the king. No proof, but he is. And everyone goes, "Oh, cool!" And then Matthew Lillard, we never see again. He's not killed. He's not, taken to jail. Like he's just out of the film all of a sudden because he's not relevant.
Yeah, he's just taken away.
You could take out the not off-brand or elves.
Oh, I love the elves.
I do too. I also love Ron Perlman, but you could cut him out of this movie. He doesn't matter.
But the elves, they're not quite elves because they're like forest nymph kind of character, kind of things, because they use they make the trees grow and the vines and stuff. The other thing I think that I would try is that I had some thoughts of if this movie was made today, if this movie came out today. Because I think if the movie as it is, if it came out now, all the dude bros would be complaining about Lily Sobieski being a Mary Sue and getting magic powers, having never been trained in them to any extent. She gets a few tips from Ray Liotta, but her father never trained her. The fight is turned by Claire Forlani, who has no fighting skills, but could stab a guy in the back like with the best of them. But I thought if it was made today.
And by the way, I think she stabbed him in the back. I couldn't tell for sure because even though he acted like he just had a sword run through him, and even though it made a sound like a sword had been sheathed or unsheathed, there was absolutely no blood on the sword, either here or when Jason Statham apparently cut his throat. There was no blood to be seen.
I guess they wanted to stick to that PG-13. You got to be light on the blood if you're gonna stick to the 13.
But good old Ray, he grabbed his throat real good to hide any wounds.
Yeah, he did.
Considering it was all done in close-up.
Yeah, to the point where I wasn't entirely sure what happened to him.
No.
If you made this movie today, though, you would make the movie about Lily Sobieski's character. And it would be so much better than this movie if you just focused on her arc, because Jason Statham is a perfect guy who becomes a perfect king. He has no flaws. His only flaw is that he doesn't. He's not big on taking orders, which is great because he's never going to have a middle role between farmer and king. So he has no change from the beginning to the end.
But according to the king, it's the same gig.
It's basically the same job because the king needs to know about, how that crops need fertilizer, and that, changes everything. He's like, oh, I can do this king thing. I love that
his character, his occupation, farmer. So his name, farmer. I love that.
I feel like he's gonna like that when he gets crowned, he'll just be king.
He'll just be king. Yeah, exactly. He won't be king farmer anymore. Hell no.
I don't think there's actually even a line where he says, "Now I'm going to be king," or like even accepts the role of king. He just keeps fighting, and people start listening to him. But he doesn't actually say like,
"Yeah." He says to people, "Stand up!" Like, don't. Everybody's kneeling. He's like, "Stand up, stand up." Then he gives a real rousing speech about how they're going to heal their dead or bury their dead and dress their wounds. But he never says, "Because I am now king." Like I would have been like, dudes, I'm your fucking king now, so listen up.
That speech was quite the move, though, to rally the troops, then decide to leave them behind for a small a small force to run into the castle and kill the bad guy.
I hadn't thought of that before. That is
It's a great.
fantastic. He rallied a troop of like 200 people just to go, you know what? Really, 3 or 4 of us is all we need to.
Can you just Can you distract the orcs while I?
Oh, wow, that's fantastic. I love the scenes at night, by the way, that are filmed at night when there's a battle and you can't tell who's the good guy or the bad guy because it's so dark and they look so much alike.
Well,
And the cuts are so fast, you cannot tell who's who, who's an orc and who's a good guy.
No, they're the Kern, not orcs. Let's not get
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
no,
bet they
clearly not orcs.
You
Clearly
bet they
not. Yeah. King of Kerns, he
How many
says.
times do you think those Kern or orcs put themselves in catapults and launch themselves? They use those shots a lot. There are like probably 6 or 7 incidents where they just discovered they could do something, so they just keep doing it.
I figure they probably filmed it once from several angles and went, you know, we can use all of these. Nobody will know.
Well, there are at least 2 because they do light the one guy on fire before doing it.
True.
And it's not a good shot, but they do it a lot.
No, it's not a good shot, but they use all 60 million or 140 million. I can't get over the idea that it's 140 million.
I don't think
because
that
if you look at me, I look like I got this halo around me because where we're recording this, and I got a background and this quality of green screen they had, and like I watched The Hunt for Red October the night before, and the end is filmed on probably blue screen from 1990, and it's very obvious, and yet the quality from 2017 on the green screen in this is probably a little worse. Like it is so obvious when they're using the green screen and Ray Liotta and everything. Like it's not good.
2007.
Oh, 2007. Yeah.
This is.
I was thinking 17 years difference between that and The Hunt.
U-Ball knows knows video games because the nice stuff looks like cutscenes.
Has anyone ever actually played a Dungeon Siege? Like, it's not exactly a brand name.
No, I was wondering like how popular, like that's what I was thinking was a Dungeon Siege, and I knew because it's U-Bowl and because he has done Blood Rain and Alone in the Dark and like House of the Dead and all these video game movies, like so many. I knew it was a video game. I vaguely recall seeing the box for like the Xbox 360 or something, but I don't know how popular a series it was. It doesn't seem to me like it's not like one that seems to me has crossed over and has the appeal to be a movie franchise. Like, what do I know?
Well, I mean, it probably gives you some indication that the sequels are not a Dungeon Siege tale. They carry the In the Name of the King name. So either it wasn't worth paying for that because it didn't get them anything,
or they refused.
Yeah.
Now I'm wondering, like, are the ninjas like Easter egg from the video games? Because they're not explained at all. They just show up. The bad guy ninjas are in there for like a shot and a half to say, "Oh yeah, there's ninjas in this world."
They're not bad guys. They're good guys. They're good guys with no explanation.
Don't matter though. Were they related to Treepy? Like where?
In your defense, Nick, I also thought they were bad guys, and then I think about it right now and I go, "Oh, I think you're right. I think they were good guys." It's almost like the storytelling wasn't very good. Yeah. I don't know. I got nothing left to say on this. It made for a good pod, but it made for 2 hours and 7 minutes of pain. And I got, like I say, nothing left. I'm glad it's not in the Octagon because it would not have scored near the top of the. It'd be at the bottom of the Octagon.
No, I thought about putting it in several times, and it is 2 hours of pain.
And it's $60 million.
I think
More heart than budget? Zero. How can we have a negative score?
I think I would give a little bit of more heart than budget to Matthew Lillard, who is the only person in the entire film who affects an accent. No one else, everyone else in the film just talks like they normally talk. So Ray Liotta is Ray Liotta, and Jason Statham is Jason Statham. Their accents don't match each other at all. The people who are supposed to be like grew up in the same area don't have the same accents, because Jason Statham's supposed to be like doesn't even have a memory of before he was in this town, but sounds nothing like Ron Perlman, who's like known him his whole life. Who sounds nothing like, and John Rhys-Davies sounds nothing like Lee Sobieski. But Matthew Lillard is the only one that said, I think I need a generic royal voice, royal accent in this movie. And just
like I said, he's the other one. He was the other one who was true in scenery. I mean, we can disagree on how good a performance it is, because that's what he does in every film. Like Ray Liotta sometimes acts seriously, and this one he was true in scenery, but Matthew Lillard only true scenery. That's his only acting move. But yeah.
Well, if we want to do, if we end up in a sequels area, there are two more directed by U-Ball. In the Name of the King, Two Worlds, Dolph Lundgren. And which has the decency to be only 96 minutes.
Not gonna do it. Won't do it. Huh?
And in the Name of the King, The Last Mission, starring Dominic Purcell, who seems to be famous for like nothing. I think Prison Break was his big thing.
But in the sequel, I think Dolph Lundgren comes to the modern world. It's just like Beastmaster 2.
No, it doesn't mean we have to.
Yeah, Dolph Lundgren's from modern times and is sent back to medieval.
So he'll have guns.
Ancient Prophecy ends up finding redemption for his own battlefield experiences. That sounds great.
Oh, that sounds terrible.
They did not stack the cast like they did on the
well, they had 1/10 the money probably. I'm wondering how that scores on these two sequels on IMDb, because I think on IMDb this was In the Name of the King is like 3.8 out of 10 or something like that.
Well, I'm wondering what those are actually when I looked it up on Rotten Tomatoes.
So In the Name of the King, Dungeon Siege Tale is a 3.8, and IMDb uses a weighted average. So even the other two are lower numbers, but not as many people have voted or rated them, is what usually is the result of that not enough people have rated it. 3.1 for the Dolph Lundgren, and a 3 even for Dominic Purcell's.
Oh my God, we don't need to. We're supposed to. It makes for a good pod. Like I say, it's good discussion. But we're supposed to watch movies that are so bad they're good. They're bad.
I had a lot of fun with this one. I think probably because it wasn't the first time I saw it. Were you going in cold, Jack?
Oh yeah. I avoid U-Ball. Like I know Nick has a sick obsession with them, but I avoid U-Ball movies. Like it's going to cause my nuts to be set in a freezer and reattached after 5 hours.
I would say that's because that's changed my opinion on a lot of movies. It's going back to it a second time without those expectations. Because the first time is just you get everything, and the second time you're like, well, I know this part's going to be dumb. I know that this thing goes nowhere, but you can kind of pull the enjoyment from the parts that you are gonna dig. Like, I mean, really, the overacting is the stuff that I enjoy most. Like I said, Ray Liotta is what I remembered from this movie more than anything else. So let's wrap this one up. We have
80 minutes. I say 80 minutes. I'd give it a thumbs up. 2 hours and 7 minutes. I'd say boring as hell.
All right. Well, that's my challenge then, is to make a watchable 80 to 90-minute movie out of this. There's
And I'm sure that's Dungeon Siege 2, or in the name of the 2. So we have to do it now.
No, we don't have to.
You can find the Cult Film Showdown on the internet. We are on Instagram at Cult Film Showdown. We are on YouTube as the Cult Film Showdown. Please like and subscribe. We are on Patreon as the Cult Film Showdown, where you can support our efforts. And maybe we'll start a GoFundMe or something to get this guy another movie directed. We are sponsored by WeTalkPodcast.com, the home of the Octagon, our search for the ultimate B movie. And We Talk Podcasts has a Facebook, and they have a Twitter. Or X. Sorry, X. Well, before we do anything else, we've got 3 more movies in this series. In the next coming up is Girls with Balls, which is a French-Belgian film available on Netflix. It is available on Netflix. Actually, at the time that we're recording this, In the Name of the King, a Dungeon Siege Tale is also on Netflix. And I don't think we've ever done a movie that was available on Netflix. And there's 2 in a row that we've got.
Well, one of the things is it's available on Netflix, but what region and what country are you in? Right?
Also, what region? Yeah, and they swap out so like this kind of movie. Girls with Balls, I think, is a Netflix owned one. But this is the kind of movie, and The Name of the King is the kind of movie that will just be in a batch that will be on Netflix this month, Tubi in 2 months, and Prime by the summer. They just revolve. If it disappears from one platform, just wait, it'll come around. Because that's just how it works now, that they'll float from one to the other. Girls with Balls is next. And on behalf of Jack and Nick, I'm going to thank you for joining us for the Cult Film Showdown, a Dungeon Siege Tale. Welcome to the Cult Film Showdown's special series on, let's try that again. I forgot what we were calling this thing. I don't like Rotten Tomatoes, and that's a whole other thing.
That is a whole other thing.